So what do we expect to happen next in Kobani? Let me bring in CNN's military analyst, Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He's retired commanding general of the U.S. Army that led the U.S. task force in northern Iraq back in the late 2000s. General, the Kurdish fighters inside Kobani, they're working hard. They're trying to save their city. It doesn't look, I think, by all accounts, very promising. What, if anything, can be done to save those people in Kobani?
Well, I think what you're seeing, Wolf, all indicators are that the ISIS fighters are reinforcing all forces from the east, south, and west of the city of Kobani. They're trying to pour as much combat effort into that as possible. I think the comments about hearing bombs dropping, those are hitting the reinforcing soldiers as they're gathering to come into Kobani. But there's still going to be the street fights in the city itself. And again, as you know, this is a city of about 40,000 people. It's a key border crossing post. ISIS wants this post because it will allow them to bring jihadists in from Turkey and also to export oil on the black market outside. So it's a critical point, just like they've looked at all the ports. There will be a lot of house-to-house, street-to-street fighting. As the report said, the Kurds know this area better than ISIS does, and they'll be able to hold off, but they just don't have the combat power to do that. The battlefield geometry is just not in the Kurds' favor right now, but their will and their desire to win is helping them out in the short term.
As you know, General, the town right along the border with Turkey, which is, after all, a key NATO ally. Taking Kobani could clear that path, as we said, all the way to their stronghold in Raqqa. So why aren't the Turks getting more aggressively involved in preventing a slaughter, preventing ISIS from taking over this key town?
Well, truthfully, Wolf, this is extremely disappointing to me as a former commander of U.S. Army in Europe to see the Turks standing by with a massive amount of firepower and not doing anything. As we said the other night, this is going to be a decision on Turkey's part. Are they going to support the Kurds, someone they don't like, in an area that has been expanding lately, or are they going to support an extremist terrorist group to their southern border? They've got to make that call. They're caught between a rock and a hard place on this, but unfortunately, that's the call they have to make, and I would hope they would go in support of the Kurds in this particular area. If not reinforcing the town, at least allow continued Kurdish escape into the Turkish, across the Turkish border.
Because you know the criticism that's being leveled at the Turks, and as you point out, no great love between the Turks and the Kurds. Turks never liked the Kurds to begin with, whether in Turkey itself or in Syria or Iraq or any place else. And there's one argument, and it's an allegation, that the Turks are sort of willing to stay on the sidelines and let these Kurds suffer in the hands of ISIS. You think that's a fair criticism of Turkey?
I'm not sure it's a completely fair criticism, Wolf. I know there have been some refugee camps established, as Arwa Damon has reported, as Nick has reported, but it's just not enough. And again, I think the Turkish government would certainly rely on Article 5 to ask other NATO nations to join them if ISIS crosses into their border. And it just concerns me right now that this is the same kind of humanitarian issue that we saw on the Sinjar Mountain with the Yazidis, that you would think the Turks would contribute to assisting the Kurds, but they are distrustful of the Kurds. There's no getting around that fact. They've had problems with Kurdish terrorists, but unfortunately that's not what we're seeing in this city. We're seeing a good group of Kurdish citizens who are just trying to be saved.
General Hertling, thanks very much. It's an awful situation, and we're going to watch Kobani very closely because the signs are not very encouraging, and a lot of people could be dead as a result of what's going on there right now. Thanks very much, General Hertling. We'll watch this situation closely. Also